Good evening, everyone. Hello, Taco Cat. How you doing today? Um, Today is what is today's day? March 7th, 2024, and we're gonna do a show today on movie duos, iconic movie duos. Before I mention that, I do want to say that this month in March is actually National Women's History Month, and it started from one day, went to the week, it went to a month, and that's kind of where we're at right now. It's celebrated all over the world. And I just do want to, thank and I appreciate all the ladies that does this show, regularly, when they're able to for National Women's Month. I wish I would have thought about it earlier. I could have maybe did, a show based on that, but I want to thank everyone who's watching, everyone who's part of that podcast. Being a female, we've came a long way. We still got a long way to go, but I appreciate everyone being here.
We can do that in 2 weeks.
Possible. I got a lot of stuff I got to do this week and next, so I don't know if I'll have that, but I'm gonna try. All right, so I just got a list of a couple of duos that I want to talk about. Some of the duos that I know a lot of, some of them I don't, but I figured since last week we did the pretty much the love duos. This one I just want to do just male, female, 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 male, male, cartoon, cartoon. There's just a lot of duos out there, and I figured let's just go ahead and talk about that. Um, I guess for me, one of the most popular duo that I think everybody pretty much know, obviously, is Han and Chewie from the Star Wars. We cannot talk about a set of duos without talking about them. When we first met them from Star Wars until the one movie, it they were just always together over the years. Solo when they met, they were just always together. So I would like to ask Miss Gray, what do you think about Han and Solo, their relationship?
And I think it was really sweet how devoted they were to each other, and absolutely heartbreaking when Han died. Just the pain in Chewie's roar just was like a knife in your own chest. I think just anybody who's lost somebody special to them could relate to that, and it was it they're just iconic. So yeah, love them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Miss Liz?
Well, I totally agree with Lady Gray. It was horrible, absolutely heart wrenching to see Han get killed by his own son. Uh, and anybody who knew Han Solo felt the pain of losing Han. So when she lost Han, I'm amazed she did as well as she did. Because they pretty much tore every woman's heart out when they killed Han Solo.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. True that. True that. Katala?
So Han and Chewie or Han and Leia? Which one?
Well, Han and Chewie.
Han and Chewie. I think Chewie was the straight man for Han. He kind of was almost a comic relief, but he did a lot of things for Han. He helped fix the ship, and then Han and Chewie kind of went along and had their own rapport with each other. So it's always good to have somebody that's has your back at all times, and you guys can watch out for each other.
True that. True that. Usually, when I start going through my things, I didn't mention questions that I would like for us to think about while we're talking about some of these duos. Why do you think these duos click? What were their chemistry? Um, do you think they stay friends for the long term of the relationship? How did they get to pair up? Why did they get pair up? How did relationship change from when they first met to the end? And did they get along? Some of our duos didn't quite get along. Another duo I would like to mention, since we are talking about Star Wars, obviously is R2 and C3PO. Another iconic duo from, of course, Star Wars. You know, um, you know, they were just great together. Even though, one, I think it was a little bit overbearing than the other, but their relationship was great. And, when you saw R2D2, coming back and talking, you saw, even though they're robots, you saw that relationship. C3PO was just so happy. We were so happy. It was just great from the first time we met them. Miss Liz, what do you think about them? R2D2 and C3.
Uh, yes, I think C3PO was probably a little overbearing on poor R2D2. Uh, but I think R2 is probably the smartest one of the bunch, even though he wouldn't let him. Even though C3PO spoke so many different languages, I don't think he would get along too well without R2D2. Uh, and when I see those two, I I get a real vibe of like like Laurel and Hardy, uh, Jerry Lewis, and his partner, and pretty much that's what I when I see them, I think of that as my human connection of the two pairings. Is
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. Katala?
For R2D2 and C3PO, I think R2D2 saved C3PO a ton of times. He's the little engine that R2D2 is the little engine that could, and C3PO has a knack for getting into trouble a lot. So, but they play off of each other very well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Lady Gray?
See, I think they're the opposite. I think R2 is the one that's always kind of barreling ahead, and C3PO is the one that's very cautious. But I think you're right. I think they balance each other.
Mm-hmm.
And well, like Marky said, just said, R2 had a foul mouth. That was freaking hilarious. You had to wonder what all those beeps were. Um, but I think they balanced each other very well, and I think that's part, of any good relationship is, you need to balance each other.
Yeah,
That's what makes a lasting relationship.
true, true. Okay, okay. Another duo for me that I enjoyed, even though they are difference in age, is Doc and Marty from Back to the Future. You know, um, when you saw Marty for the first time, with the guitar and meeting Doc in the house and everything that they did for each other, so they pretty much both can be happy in all three movies, which I have to admit is just one of my favorite trilogies. I thought it was just really good. Sometimes, going off base here, but sometimes when you see a set of movies, the first one's good, the second one's okay, the third one, I enjoy all three movies and their relationships, where, it was more of I, maybe a father, son, aunt, uncle, and nephew. It was just a really good relationship with them. that they were willing to do. Marty was willing to do what he had to do for Doc. That was just great. So, Katala, what do you think about Doc and Marty from Back to the Future?
Doc is kind of a wild caveman, as it were. And I think Marty is kind of, oh, kind of saves things. He gets the stuff that he needs, and Doc is running around like a chicken with his head cut off most of the time. So they're a good combination. They couldn't get things done without each other, I don't think.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Miss Liz?
I always thought Doc is like the nutty professor, super smart but slightly harebrained. Uh, and Marty's like his protege, his student, like you say, his nephew, uh, that kind of thing. And I think there's a true love for the both of them. I think they really, really, really love each other like family, even though they're not family. They love each other like they're family, and one would do anything for the other one.
That's correct. That's correct. Miss Gray?
I think they're both kind of misfits that kind of saw a kindred spirit in each other. That they didn't kind of fit into the environment they were in. Marty didn't fit in with his own family, and poor Doc didn't fit in with most anybody. So with each other, they found somebody they fit with, and you know, like Marky said, they needed each other in the end, and um, I think again it goes back to balance. They balanced each other, whereas Doc was kind of harebrained. Marty was the one that kind of grounded him, which is kind of ironic since he was the younger of the two. But yeah, I think it was a lifelong friendship with them as well.
Okay, okay. Another duo, the Miss Gray. I just actually this duo was on my list, and I saw that you sent something from the X Files, Mulder and Scully. You know, great duo. Now the last season. Mm, but him being the hey, the truth is out there, and the aliens, and Scully being well, scientific, this doesn't really make sense. Another great duo, good couple. I enjoyed the series, watched it when it was on back in the day, watched a reboot they did a couple of years ago, which sometimes they talk about doing it again, but I don't see that happening. Lady Gray, since you also mentioned this couple, what do you think about them?
I think these two are the ultimate grounding each other, because she would have probably never left the lab if it wasn't for him. And if it wasn't for her, he'd have probably been in a field running around with tinfoil on his head. Um, Interesting fact I read somewhere online. If you heard the term, which ship do you like, this ship or that ship? I read somewhere that the term shipping a couple actually comes from them, that there was a bunch of people that were hoping they would be in a relationship, and so that term became popular for wishing a couple would get together in a series, shipping from the X Files.
Okay, okay. No, I didn't know that. Natalia?
They're a good couple to put together. She grounds him, and he gives her a chance to view the world through his eyes. He's got more of a child like wonder about him when it comes to aliens and things like that. And She's more serious, more mathematically, scientifically inclined. So she can put a spin that way on things.
Okay, okay. I saw you clap, Miss Liz. Go ahead and tell us about the X Files.
Well, at first I thought they pretty much didn't get along with each other like oil and water, but he kind of wore her down to the point where she started actually, you know, believing and listening to what he had to say. And so they ended up being a really good, team eventually. But when they
Hmm.
first started out, no, she was. It was like he was hitting a brick wall, if you know what I mean, at first,
Hmm.
and and he basically wore her down.
True that. Okay, okay. Another duo that Miss Gray and I actually looks like we kind of seen on the same page is Bonnie and Clyde. Now, I
Whoa.
haven't watched a movie on them or read about them in a while, but I'm not even don't even remember what year it was. I want to say maybe the 1920s, 1930s, but they had a love story, tragic love story, because they died, but they did what they had to do for robbing the banks and wanting to be each other. So I'm going to go to Miss Liz first, Bonnie and Clyde.
Well, when they first hooked up, she was out for the adventure. He was the bad boy, and she got sucked in because she got attracted to the bad boy. And but then later on, I think she really turned out to be worse than he was. And but and like it's amazing they got away with what they got away with as long as they got away with it before they got shot down. But yeah, I think she was the wild one, and she got attracted to him, and they basically went as they were like two peas in a pod. They went, let's see how far we can get away with things, and basically just they really had a wild trip. And they weren't very I wouldn't want to cross paths with them because they had a tendency to shoot and ask questions later.
True, true. Katala?
Oh, they were definitely a unique pairing, with her being from a different side of the tracks. So, but they complemented each other pretty well. I think she thought up a lot of the schemes, and he did a lot of the heavy work. I think is how it went. But they stuck together and went and died together. So
Okay, okay. Lady Gray?
I think, well, first of all, I think, they have been kind of romanticized over the years, when in reality, they were, like Miss Liz said, you wouldn't want to cross them. They were dangerous criminals. Um, but that being said, I think they were also products of the time and environment. They were in the 1930s, so you had the Great Depression. People were desperate. You know, what a normal person probably wouldn't even think about doing, people were pushed to doing. And the women had just come out of the roaring 20s where, you had flappers doing anything and everything. So the wild girl and the bandit just wasn't outside of the realm of possibility. And I think, I guess the cool thing about them is that they had each other's back until the end. And I think that's, if you're in a relationship, what more can you want? Whether it's a good or a bad situation, you want somebody who's going to have your back till the very end.
True, true. And concerning you actually said that, Thelma Louise, pretty much what Miss Gray just said for, kind of Bonnie and Clyde, for me is pretty much the same as Thelma Louise. They were friends, they went out for a joyride, and of course, the hand scene when they going off the cliff. They were there for each other. And I'm not going to ask questions about Thelma Louise because I think Lady Grey just pretty much sums up with what she said about Bonnie and Clyde with them. So I am going to go on to my next duo. Now, of course, we mentioned Star Wars. We got to mention Star Trek. You got to say something about Kirk and Spock. Even though that's kind of a trio, you can't leave Bones out of that. But it's mainly Kirk and Spock. And, from, the TV show into the 60s, from the 60s till, the last movie, they were just there for each other, willing to, break the directive for each other, willing to die for each other. Beautiful, iconic relationship of just two friends that they were just there for each other through the whole time. Miss Liz, Spock, and Kirk. What do you think about them?
Um, I just think it's very interesting how uh, a serious, logical um type person like Spock would actually find Kirk as a friend. At first I didn't think they would, they wouldn't get along, but those two, they apparently hit it off, and they would have, they like you said, they would have done anything for each other, and that includes McCoy, even though Leonard and McCoy and Spock didn't get along sometimes. I just think it was a front, personally. Uh,
I agree.
but yeah, it was just a very unlikely. If somebody had told you that this human, um, who was very flamboyant, really big on himself, super smart, uh, did against always bucked against the rules, and would actually team up with somebody who was always with the rules, extremely smart, very logical, and you know, just straight laced and whatnot, and how they ended up being together is amazing. But once they got together, nobody was going to pull them two apart ever.
Mhm. I love that answer, Miss Liz. You're 100% correct. 100% correct. Katalia?
Kirk and Spock, kind of like two old souls, I guess. They complement each other very well. Spock has got the logic, Kirk's got the daredevilish actions, and usually Spock will help pull things back when they have to get straightened around. But they care for each other and they watch out for each other. Even as Miss Liz said, McCoy is part of that little group there. They all take care of each other and help each other out when they need it.
Okay. Okay. And Lady Grey.
I think, given the storyline where they're on the ship out so far from Earth where they're forced to depend on each other, I think you realize not just even just the two of them, how important every member of the crew is, and how that kind of mission wouldn't work without a Kirk and a Spock, because you needed Kirk to be daring, but you needed Spock to give that logic to, to pull, Kirk back sometimes when, he was stepping over the line and say, maybe this isn't a good idea. But you also, on the flip side, needed, Kirk to get Spock to live a little bit. So I think they complemented each other so well. You really saw why they worked so well in a relationship. They were the perfect pairing for that type of mission.
True, true. Okay. There's actually some cartoons DOs that I feel like we also need to mention. I'm going to mention two right now. Woody and Buzz from the Toy Story series, and even Shrek and Donkey. These are a pair, two pairs that, kind of started where they kind of really didn't care for each other. But by the end of the set of movies, Lilo and Stitch, which sadly I've never seen, but I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know Miss Gray. I think you mentioned that. I'm sorry. I haven't seen Lilo and Stitch. But um, the other two, the Woody and Buzz and Shrek and Donkey, they didn't like each other. But by the time of the end of the movies, they were just best of friends. They were family. And I just love seeing their relationship, how it did definitely change from the first time that you saw them to the last set of movies. And even from what I understand, they're supposed to be doing another Toy Story movie. I think I kind of read a little bit in the grapevine. So, any of these two characters, well, four characters, Miss Liz, what do you think about these cartoon sets?
Oh, I love Buzz and Woody. They're my two favorites. And yes, at first Woody hated Buzz with every fiber of his being because he figured he was you know taking up his Andy's time and effort. He was supposed to be Andy's favorite toy, and Buzz kind of came in there and you know and that kind of upset Woody big time. But as time went on, and then they started helping each other, and they went through adventures together, that they ended up being really close, and had each other's back and whatnot, and they had a magnificent friendship, and and it's a good thing they had each other. I mean, without it was wonderful. That they finally, it was like little brother and big brother finally getting along. Because at first they didn't get along, and then they got and then as they got time went on, it was like they couldn't live without the other one, if you know what I mean.
Okay, okay. Katala?
They're all good. I think I like Lilo and Stitch the best because it kind of reminds me of my two girls. Um, Lilo is there for her family, and eventually Stitch becomes a part of that. Woody and Buzz, they eventually resolve the differences, and they realize that each one can do something the other can't, so they help each other out, and they can get to where they have to go by relying on each other's strengths. So I think those two will do it for me.
Okay, okay. Lady Gray?
I think with both pairs, it's better they had to learn to respect each other. Um, at the beginning, but all of them couldn't stand each other. They, like like you said, Buzz and Woody couldn't, just hated each other. Woody was just completely jealous, and he had to learn to respect Buzz. And Shrek was kind of the same way. He was grumpy and wanted to be left alone, and he had to learn that, having Donkey as a friend was a good thing. So, um, I think, when you learn to respect and appreciate somebody, that's, when you go from enemies to friends. I don't know.
Okay, okay. Um, I have one more major cartoon that I do want to mention. Shaggy and Scooby. Um, Great, in the Mystery Machine, always together. Um, it was just a great show. I've seen probably almost every episode, except for the one with Scrappy. But great relationship between the two from when they met as young kids to I don't think they ever grew up, but to the later teenage years. Great relationship. They're just funny together. They always had each other back, and it was just hilarious. So, did anybody want to talk about Shaggy and Scooby?
I mean, they're great. They're fun, and um, I think it kind of plays on, man's best friend is, a dog is man's best friend, but Scooby was just so much more than that. Um, and I've seen several different iterations, but in most of them, Shaggy was kind of a, a, a freak or an outcast, and it wasn't until he met Scooby that he really had a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of people can kind of feel that on some level, when when you have the pet that's your best friend. So I really like the two. I meant to put that on there too. I just got busy and didn't get a chance.
Well, actually, I have a few other honorary mentions when it comes to cartoons. I have, which we don't have to discuss since we're going about to the half an hour mark. But I did put Marlin and Dory from Finding Nemo. Of course, Snoopy and Woodstock. I don't know who they are. Donut and Blue Falcon. Oh yeah, yes, I forgot about them. I mentioned Bert and Ernie, Tom and Jerry, and one of my all favorites, Pinky and the Brain. I think I just want to mention maybe two more sets of pairs. Um, this one is kind of either or it Batman and Robin, or even Batman and the Joker.
Oh,
Both kind of duos. I know you're shaking your head, Miss Liz, but they both pairs are a duo. Of course, it just breaks out in your mouth when you say Batman and Robin, and the relationship with Joker and Batman. It was I guess a love and a hate relationship with them. I don't know, but one couldn't exist pretty much without the other. So since you're shaking your head, Miss Liz, you can either talk about Batman and Robin or Batman and the Joker.
well, I think Batman and Robin is like father and son, mentor and nephew. Uh, you know, Robin couldn't have gotten around and done the things he did without Batman. Batman couldn't have done it without Robin. But as far as Joker and Batman, I don't think they're a duo at all. Uh, all Joker ever wanted to do was destroy Batman and make his life miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Period. There was no love hate relationship going on there. It was a hate relationship. Period.
Okay, okay. Natalia, what do you think about those pairs?
I'll have to agree with Miss Liz. I really haven't watched too many Batman and Robin cartoons. So the only couple I would throw out there would be DS9, Bashir, and Garrett. Not meaning to interrupt your cartoons, but haven't watched too many Batman things. So
Okay, okay. Lady Grey?
Um, so I'm not. I don't claim to be the expert on Batman, but I do know that I believe there's been a lot of like papers and stuff written on the relationship between Batman and Joker and how one could not exist without the other. And I do know in like the Michael Keaton version, Joker even says, "You made me." Um, so while they may be a extremely dysfunctional duo, I think they still fall under the parameters of duo.
Mhm.
Not a healthy one by any means, but it's they're a duo enough that I've seen podcasts and papers and stuff written about them.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. 100% agree, Miss Gray. 100% agree. All right, so I have more on this list, but I'm gonna probably shut it off in just a few moments. But I do want to ask everyone what two set of duos that they like. If you can sum it up, and then like in a minute or two, that you would like to talk about. I'll go to Katalia first. Which one or two duos in about a minute or two that you would like to mention?
I would have to say Bashir and Garrick. There's a unique interplay between the two. Bashir's trying to find out more about Garrick, and Garrick just kind of leads him on a wild goose chase and says, I could be telling you the truth, or I could be lying, or the truth could be the lie. So they're a unique conundrum unto themselves.
Okay, okay. Do you have another one, or you just want to mention them?
If I did anything, it would be probably Worf and Martok. Those
Okay,
two have a, I guess, a father slash son ish kind of relationship, and it's a neat thing to see.
okay, okay. Marky Mark put Superman and Batman. That's another cute duo I like. Best friends. I agree. All right, Miss Liz.
I will go with Colonel Jack O'Neill and Major Samantha Carter. And they do, you know, they're a fantastic duo. She's the brains, he's the bronze. And I don't think one could get away without the other one. And then there is a definite by the probably the eighth season, not there they kept hinting that they would there was more than just mutual respect and admiration. I think they really started to like each other in the biblical sense, as it were. I know they didn't do anything, but I think they really learned to love each other. And if it weren't for the fact that he was her commanding officer and she was his subordinate, that I think they would have eventually had a relationship. But being the fact that they were military, and it's a definite no. And but yeah, without Jack, without Samantha, you know, they needed. They were pretty much a pair.
I can agree to that. I actually saw that too towards the end before Jack left the show. That you kind of feel like it could have been if they had an opportunity. Lady Gray.
Sam and Dean from Supernatural. And yeah, they were brothers, but I think, at the beginning of the show they were just brothers. They loved each other because they were supposed to, because they were brothers, but they didn't really seem to like each other very much. Whereas by the end of the show, you could see they were like each other's ride or die. Um, and second pair would be Ron and Harry from Harry Potter, which I realize they're actually a trio because you have Hermione as well, but it started out Ron, and Harry, so we'll go Ron and Harry. So you're on mute.
Ooh. All right. Well, I guess that's pretty much all I'm going to say for today. I have more on my list. There's just so many duos out there. As we said earlier, from live action to cartoons to male to female families. Enemies. There's just so many duos that over the years we just love or even love to hate, and it's just really, really, really good to see. It looks like our next show is going to be in 2 weeks. Looks like looking on my trusty calendar, that is on March 21st. Oh, Kit and Michael Knight. Oh, Machine and Human. Next show in 2 weeks on March 21st. So I'd like to say thank you for everyone that's joining us. Thank you to Miss Liz, Katalia, Miss Gray, Jen, who, when she wakes up, hopefully she'll be able to see this podcast. And y'all have a great 2 weeks, and I'll see you then. We'll see you then. Bye.